Let's talk about some Scientology intimidation attempts, why Tom Cruise is said to have no friends, and that John Stamos has been marked safe from Scientology. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Thank you to the members for being here. And of course, a big thank you for the moderators for helping out today. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. And we're going to get all into the good stuff, including why it's news right now that Tom Cruise has no friends and why. We're going to get into that. I've got my own take and twist on it. And I want to hear yours. I want to hear yours because, I love talking about what I think about it, but I want to know what you guys think about it. I am back home. As you can see, I made it back from Kansas City, went out there to meet with some people, do some protesting of Scientology in Kansas City, Missouri. And now I am back at home. So here we are getting going again back in the home studio. So again, thank you everybody for being here. And everybody who is here bright and early, can you head over to that like button and show it a bit of aloha? I would absolutely appreciate that. Okay, everybody, let's do this. Let's start with a bit of Scientology propaganda because, I like to kick it off that way. I see these things and I think, oh, surely they'll never do this again because people see right through it. And then I see that Scientology does it again. The propaganda just never ends. What is that one song? It's like the song that never ends. Somebody should write that song, but make it about Scientology propaganda. The propaganda never ends. Scientology just goes on and on, my friends. Okay, so let's see. I'll pull this up here. Enough yapping. Let's pull this up and look at this. This is your very typical Scientology press release and propaganda. And this is from the Church of Scientology Community Center of HARLEM, hosts final or finale of the 18th Human Rights Summit. Here's the thing. Number one. The Church of Scientology Community Center is referred to by the Nation of Islam as mosque. I forget the number, but there's a number. Do you guys remember that when we went over that? So it's interesting to me that Scientology is putting out press releases saying, oh, no, it's the Church of Scientology Community Center. And let's all try to not collectively vomit in our mouths a little as we read and see that it was for human rights. Yep. HARLEM is a crossroads of culture and innovation, a trend-setting community of global influence. This is one reason the Church of Scientology Community Center of HARLEM is an ideal location for the final day of the 18th Annual Human Rights Summit, organized by United for Human Rights and its program for young people, Youth for Human Rights International. The annual summit provides a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to young advocates from around the world. So, United for Human Rights and Youth for Human Rights, as you know, let's say it together, are Scientology front groups. Yes, they are out pretending to support human rights while Scientology violates them on a actual literal daily basis. So this is really rich here, Scientology, to make this claim. They say there were more than 50 delegates representing 35 nations and territories gathered at United Nations headquarters in New York for the first 2 days of the 3-day summit. And the Church of Scientology Community Center of HARLEM hosted the final day. I don't know. I feel like that's worth looking into. It kind of, how Scientology makes it sound so much like it was their thing? Were they a part of a thing? And I love this too. I love that here, right, with the whole Scientology thing, that there's an ad for ADHD. ADHD is not laziness, it's depression. It's a depression response because Scientology does not believe in any of that. So they shared their youth educator kits and all that. Link down below to this article and all the ones and all the videos that we're going to be talking about so you can check those out. But again, try to do your best to not, because when you read it, it's like, oh, really? We're gonna pretend this now? Okay. I guess we're pretending. I guess we're still trying to pretend that Scientology actually supports human rights. I mean, even their own people, eventually you do get to the point where you're like, wait a minute, but Sleep deprivation in the Sea Org, especially anyone who was in the Sea Org would know. A lot of the Scientology everyday public don't know. Some of them do, though. How do you not reconcile these things? But that is the whole thing with Scientology. It doesn't make sense because it's irrational and created by a man who, let's not forget, was involved in a sex cult and black magic with Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons just prior to releasing Dianetics. So, yeah, let's take advice from that guy. Things you wish you would have known when you were in Scientology. Absolutely. Wish I'd have known that. Now, let's take a look at SPTV.SPACE. I just wanted to remind everybody that you can head over to SPTV.SPACE, click on their resources tab, and you can help revoke Scientology's tax-exempt status. Jacob Harkey does that song a million times better than I do, and I know. I already know, so you don't have to tell me. When you go on here, you can see in each state, there are the number of letters that have been sent to these representatives and responses. A red check means negative response. A green check means a positive response. If you live in if you're in the United States, go to this and follow the instructions. Let's see how many candidates we can commit to having hearings on Scientology's tax-exempt status. There's an example letter. You can just click, drop down by state and find yours, select a district. And what you want to do is you want to find your district and choose which candidate to contact, either BCC, blind copy, or forward your letter and their response to House Reps at SPTV.SPACE. That's who you send it to so it can be tracked. House Reps at SPTV.SPACE. That's the email, so we can track it here that you want to send it to. So I'm going to keep reminding you guys about this and sharing it. And please, if you have a channel here on YouTube, you're active in social media, go ahead and share that and share this, because the more people we can get to go to their elected officials or want to be elected officials and say, where do you stand on having a hearing looking into Scientology's tax-exempt status, and, demand a response. If you're from their district, you are one of the people that they have accountability to. So this is a great question to ask and to get an answer on it, and go ahead and share it. So be sure to check that out. Casey Cat, thank you so much. Let me pull this up here. I appreciate that. Hip, hip, hooray. Gifted 5 Scientology Life After Occult memberships. I appreciate that. It was so wonderful to meet you in person this last weekend, these last few days as well. Casey Cat was one of the people I was able to meet when I went out to Kansas City, including Z News and Auditing Scientology. You guys probably watch Mike outside of Kansas City. Oh, we had such a good time. We had such a good time. We will talk more about that. In fact, I've got a video coming up tomorrow you're not going to want to miss. I can't tell you what it's about yet. Just keep an eye. When you hit subscribe, set your notification bell to all. This is going to be a good one. That's all I'm saying for now. It's going to be tomorrow. Okay, now let's go over and take a look at, you guys may know that Lara FM, who grew up in Scientology and was in the Sea organization, is also a singer, songwriter, recording artist, and she's currently doing a tour. And as part of that, she's continuing to expose Scientology. Let's take a look at Lara when she was in Seattle here.
Children are they're not even children. When you're in Scientology, kids can't consent. You're not a child when you're in Scientology. They consider children to be small bodies, but big spirits in small bodies. So they expect a child to act and operate beyond anybody.
I love that she's sharing that. She's sharing her experience and these basic things about Scientology and what the belief system is. And it might even help people understand the mindset of a Scientologist, because you hear a lot of these things. You hear about the abuses in Scientology and the neglect that can happen with children in the Sea organization back in the day and continuing forward, because teenagers are still recruited into the Sea organization where they should not be, because kids can't consent. Chantel, thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate that support. It helps out a ton. Hip, hip, hooray to you as well. Thank you so much. That's right, Cajun Mama. It's a great day not to be in a cult. It is indeed. All right, let's go over to the UK for some good news. Not good news for Scientology, but good news for the rest of the world. We're going to go take a look at this is the website for Apostate Alex, who shared what's happening. Scientology school loses visa status after home office inspection. This is, a picture of the school and the students. It's a private school in Sussex, recently came under fire after independent schools inspector ISI raised serious safeguarding concerns during a routine inspection. And now they've had their visa granting status revoked by UK visas and immigration. This is really big news, and it is very exciting. Greenfields Schools, which charges up to $43,000 US, $43,000 a year for school. Keep in mind, this is not college. This is regular school. So they charge about $43,000 per year. They've previously been able to issue educational visas for students moving abroad to study at the school. In a letter sent to parents and seen by Scientology Business, now keep in mind, the school sent this letter. Head teacher Andrew Hodgson explains, I regret to inform you that our ability to sponsor students has been withdrawn by UK visas and immigration. This means that we will no longer be able to sponsor students from overseas. Current sponsorship will end July 31st, 2024. So it has already ended. He goes on to say, we are very sorry to be in this position and understand if it causes difficulties for families. We'd like to offer to assist in finding alternative arrangements so that students can complete their studies. One possibility is that a nearby school could continue to sponsor students. A nearby school could continue to sponsor students. So how does that work? Are you saying you're trying to get other schools to sponsor students to still study there at the Scientology school? I don't know. Supposedly they have 176 students. 30 of them are boarders. So it's 30% of their students. This will be a huge blow to them. And I don't feel bad about it at all. You guys tell me what you think here. I'm telling you, this is this is incredibly good news, because keep in mind too, this is what Scientology does. This is the human trafficking factor of it, is they will bring people over from other countries to join the Sea organization, get a religious workers visa, and then Scientology takes their passport so they cannot just leave. And maybe they don't have support here or income, or other resources, and they become fully dependent on Scientology, even if they were never a Scientologist before. We have heard some recent reports of people who've left the Sea organization that joined that weren't even Scientologists or were super, super new to Scientology when they joined. So this is something that I hope that we see more of. And yeah, go UK. Go UK. Let's take a look now at Philip Jones. Phil Jones and his wife, Willie Jones, have 2 children who are in the Sea organization practicing Scientology's harmful practice of disconnection because their parents left Scientology and were vocal about it. I know, right? What a crime. What a crime. You leave Scientology and you dare to tell people? What in the world are you doing? Yeah, that is Scientology's point of view. It is. I don't know where, because L. Ron Hubbard said it's a suppressive act to even tell someone you want to leave Scientology, to even say that you're thinking about leaving Scientology to another Scientologist can get you declared a suppressive person. So you can only imagine how they feel when people actually leave and dare to talk about it. Like, dare to talk about it. Just blows my mind. So let's take a look at this video from Phil, because there's some really good tidbits in here. First off, Phil is explaining a policy by L. Ron Hubbard that is at the beginning of every major service in Scientology, every major course in Scientology, you have to read Keeping Scientology Working. And there are very key messages in there that are repeated over and over and over and over to Scientologists. Scientologists, oh, hey, Kels, I see you there in the chat. Scientologists have to even repeat it back like they do what in Scientology they refer to as Chinese school, where somebody will say, okay, keeping Scientology working, point one, what is it? And you just repeat back, keeping Scientology, point one, and then, you go through the actual points. So let's take a look at what Phil says, and we're going to talk a bit more about it because this is intense.
If they enrolled, they're aboard. And if they're aboard, they're here on the same terms as the rest of us.
So he's reading the actual L. Ron Hubbard policy that's in this policy letter at the beginning of every course. So this is the message when many of you ask, one, how do people stay in Scientology and just look the other way? How do they keep the blinders on? How do they endure if at a minimum, some massive inconveniences at a minimum, and more the norm is financially destroyed, families destroyed, relationships broken up, and so on and so on. This is how, listen to this.
Win or die in the attempt. Never let them be half-minded.
In fact, you know what? I'm going to back it up so you can hear it from the beginning.
If they enrolled, they're aboard. And if they're aboard, they're here on the same terms as the rest of us. Win or die in the attempt. Never let them be half-minded about being Scientologists. The proper instruction attitude, this is for a course supervisor, you're here, this is what a course supervisor is supposed to think, you're here, or to tell their students rather, you're here so that you're a Scientologist. Now we're going to make you into an expert auditor no matter what happens. We'd rather have you dead than incapable.
Did you hear that? That is a very key part of that. We rather have you dead than incapable. Remember, Scientologists have to read this. They get checked out on it. They have to do demonstrations of it in clay or using a demo kit, which is just taking pieces, moving them around to show somebody that you understand a concept. So and you were repeatedly reminded that Scientology rather have you dead than incapable.
And it actually says that in the policy. We'd rather have you dead than incapable.
This is what instructors in Scientology, course supervisors, people training, people running Scientology organizations, this is the viewpoint that they are indoctrinated to accept. We rather have you dead than incapable. You're here on the same terms as the rest of us. So if a staff member has to work 100 hours a week, then there's an expectation that, hey, you're here on the same terms as the rest of us. So the least you can do is get in on course 2.5 hours a day, 7 days a week as an absolute minimum. Because you're here on the same terms as the rest of us. Abraham, that's right. In other words, a bunch of nonsense. Yep, absolutely. Miss Kim, yep, a horrible thing to say to members. But doesn't it show you the indoctrination of it all? Why it's so heavy? Why the blinders? Why they are so trained to react or not react when it comes to questions about Scientology, or bringing up actual reports, but firsthand reports of people who experienced abuse in Scientology. That's right, Sandy McKenna. I'm telling you, right? Sins of Scientology, what in the name of LRH is this? Insanity. Yes, exactly. By the way, Sins of Scientology dropped a new episode. Go check it out. Sins of Scientology here on YouTube. And make some tea, drink of your choice, curl up. It's a good one. It is, as usual, they're very disturbing, but done in a way that it just really brings it all together. It's just a great way to learn about why people are protesting Scientology, why Scientology is so controversial. If you just go over to Sins of Scientology and watch some of the videos they've been doing about that, it will really fill in the blanks if you're not sure. Okay, so back to Phil Jones. Phil Jones, link down below where you can see his whole video, which you're going to want to, goes on to share this story of how he was on course and he was trying to finish his course. You guys know the whole Thursday before 2 thing. Scientology's week goes Thursday at 2 to Thursday at 2. And Phil, being a good Scientologist, was going to get in there and stay late and do his course and finish his course before Thursday at 2. And the course supervisor was going to stay with him because you have to have a course supervisor in a course room. So let's listen to this, and then we're going to talk about it. You're not going to believe what happened to him.
And he was...
Okay, wait, I'm just realizing I have to probably set it up a little bit better. So Phil's on course, and it's like late. It's like after midnight, 1, 2, 2:30, I think he said it was. And the course supervisor was sitting at his desk dead asleep, like out cold sleeping, while Phil's doing his course in the wee hours of the evening, the early morning hours, to finish this course. So Phil's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm tired. I'm not retaining the information. I mean, there are rules in Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard says, where you need to be well rested to be on course. So it's such a violation. But again, there's such an emphasis on statistics and meeting quotas and numbers that takes importance over actually helping people. So Phil goes home while the course supervisor is sitting there sleeping. Phil's like, I'm out. He goes home. Well, Phil awakens to a very disturbing scene. And so let's jump in. This is where he starts talking about what he woke up to.
And he was, Ravi, you're coming back in, and you're going to come back in, and
he's in Phil's bedroom. The staff member, the course supervisor who had fallen asleep, awoke, realized Phil had fallen asleep, and then this.
You're going to finish this course. We'd rather have you dead than incapable. And I'm looking up at this guy, and I'm seeing this madman holding a lamp over my head, screaming, we'd rather have you dead than incapable. And I looked up at him, and now it sounds like this stretched out, but it was a split instant. I was thinking, should I punch him? Maybe I could get away with that. But having rolled over, I was kind of tangled in the sheets. I thought, there's no way. If I try to punch him before that lamp comes down on my head. So I just said, okay, I'll go in. So anyway, untangled myself, got dressed, and walked in. He walked me in. He didn't just wait for me to come back in.
What in the world? Can you imagine just like, go into that person's, into their oasis, their castle where they should feel safe and comfortable, and yell over them with holding a lamp. We rather have you dead than incapable. Get your butt back on course. It's ridiculous. Definite trouble source. Saying to any human being under any circumstances, we'd rather have you dead than incapable. Cognitive dissonance is so powerful. So true. So true. Me and Taz, thank you. I'd rather have you here alive. Yeah. Yep. That is the value that you can see where for Scientology, where their priorities are. It's in compliance. It's in meeting quotas. It's in meeting numbers. It's not about it no longer becomes about helping people. And this is what happens to a lot of people in Scientology is they think, oh, I want to help people. I mean, most of us, we want to help people. We want to help each other. We want each other to do better in life. We want to see people happy. We want to see people achieving their goals. And you're told that in Scientology that that's what they do. And they have all this propaganda with videos and flyers, and you see and you're like, oh, they are out. They are helping people. Look at these elected officials who were speaking at the opening of a Scientology ideal org, and so on and so on. And their desire to help gets hijacked by this organization. And little by little, even though they know and they feel like this doesn't totally feel right, but you're right. You know what? Yeah. L. Ron Hubbard rather have me dead than incapable. So I have to be capable. I have to meet my quotas. I have to meet my targets. And if I don't, of course I'm going to be punished. Of course, because that makes sense. That makes sense in Scientology. At least they believe that it does. But doesn't that blow your mind? Just blows my mind. Blows my mind. Phil Jones, again, for the win on the internet. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to him. Him and his wife, Willie, get out and protest and share some really great information to help people understand how and why Scientology is so dangerous. So now let's take a look at a little sum here, because if you've ever wanted to raise your confront and become more competent, speaking of being capable, there's a theme here in Scientology. We rather have you dead than incapable. They're always trying to confront or they talk about it. They don't actually do it. They run away when you actually confront them or stand there and smile even. I saw this, you guys who were with me in Kansas City, I was very pleasantly welcoming the staff to the org and letting them know that help was available. Their doubts about Scientology are valid and freeloader debts cannot be enforced. It's when you see it and you see their reaction or lack of, depending on the person. Some of them were, also said hello. Some they just ignored and put the blinders on like they're supposed to. One feisty character, not Jerry, as I'm calling him, because I called him Jerry. That is not his name, and not Jerry. I want to apologize again for calling you the wrong name. I wasn't aware that you had such a button on it. And, you should go in to the org and maybe have somebody call you Jerry over and over again until you flatten the button. That would be using Scientology, not Jerry, but turning around, holding the door open to the org so all the staff can hear, which thank you for that, by the way, and yelling to go F myself. Not aloha, not Jerry, not aloha, but the product of Scientology. That is what they're creating. I just can't imagine just being that. Well, I can't imagine being that miserable. I just never was to the point, I think, where I was like that angry, where I would just so publicly lash out like that, especially when somebody's standing there recording the whole thing. Call me crazy. I don't know. You might want to just think about how you show up. I'm just saying. So anyways, back to this raise your confront and competence. How do you do that in Scientology? How do you raise your confront? How do you become more competent? Well, they say join staff, raise your confront and competence. So this guy is a Scientology staff member. It says join staff now in Basel, blah, 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 blah. But that's the message. Raise your confront and competence, join staff. There is such an emphasis on competence. And you might be saying, Natalie, what is wrong with that? It's a good thing to be competent. Well, of course it is. But it's not being on staff that's going to get you there. I mean, I think you guys know that. And those of us who were there, you learned that. But that is part of the indoctrination. If you're a staff member, if you're a C organization member, you will be competent. You are being trained to just be so much better than everybody else. That's right. Flatten that button, not Jerry. Yeah, flatten that button. Yeah. James says, I think not Jerry is a self-love making machine. Self-love machine. I don't know. Obviously Jerry needs a hug. Not Jerry, excuse me. I'm sorry. Not Jerry needs a hug. That's all. That's all I know. And I highlighted it on not yesterday. When did I do a recap on Friday? So go ahead and check that out. And you can see the whole protest video. I've got 3 videos on my channel from when I was in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay, let's go over to San Francisco now. You guys know how we've been talking about, we've seen people out there, especially Club Brain Fog, calling them out on the fact that, hey, you guys have a historic building. You have to take extra care of it. There's just things that you need to do. You need to do it. This is a public relations flap, as they would say in Scientology. You bought a historic building. You made a big deal about it, how you were going to delicately restore it, blah, 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 and the thing's falling apart. Well, obviously, you got the message, but you know what? We should make sure everyone hears this. Let's get David Miscavige, the leader, out. Now, it is the weekend. I know you guys are like, Natalie, why are you so nice to the Office of Special Affairs sometimes? Because they are people too, and I have hope that they're going to come out and hit me up and be like, hey, I want out. I'm going to say, you know what? Okay, let's get you some help. Office of Special Affairs. Okay, so we were in Kansas City, as you guys know, and the whole not Jerry thing. I mean, you just might want to talk to him or talk to your staff, like, when they show up like that, looking like raving lunatics and are so mean, it doesn't help anything. It just kind of validates the idea that some people have about Scientology. And not everybody in Scientology is like not Jerry. They are not. So when we talk about that, and then we talk about how your buildings look, right? So you have the public relations that way too. In San Francisco, your building was falling apart, and Club Brain Fog was nice enough to be able to point it out and let you guys know. And it looks like you guys did something about it. So we are going to take a look at this clip. We are. So let's see. Let's take a look. This was fantastic. Club Brain Fog in San Francisco.
They're fixing the doors. Holy crap. I told them to. They're fixing the freaking doors. I was right. Hi. I told them to fix the doors for like 6 days. They're warped, right? They'll tell you not to talk to me in a minute.
Oh, you don't want to protest me?
So yeah, I was right. The door was warped and they kept messing it up by closing it up every single day.
She was right. The door was warped. And yes, they were messing it up, which is damaging it and damaging a historic building. Fuzzy Pink Handcuffs, the San Francisco org is the building version of Not Jerry. So true. Hey, auditing Scientology Kansas City. That's Mike there. Not Jerry is probably a public, not staff. Absolutely. Yeah, I think he's definitely a public for sure. For sure. Club Brain Fog was out there. And of course, what does Scientology do because their butt hurt? Because they probably hate the fact that it was a protester who said, hey, you're actually going to mess up your building here, which is a historic building because of what's happening with these doors. And she brought it up a few times, and here they are finally fixing it. And because, I'm sure they're embarrassed by that, they called the police, who came, and it was a big nothing because Club Brain Fog wasn't doing anything, and the police knew that, and they had a, pretty good interaction about it. That was just hilarious to see. I'm telling you, I just cracked my up. I thought it was hilarious. Me and Taz, only because it's a historical building, not because Scientology cares. Exactly. And they're getting called out as being a bad steward of this building, which is part of how they worked with the city to gain somewhat of acceptance or to save point themselves, we have restored so many historical buildings across the country and across the globe. And knowing Scientology, it's probably millions. We have restored millions. In fact, you know what? We have restored billions of building. Who knows what it is, but that is part of their safe pointing. And I love that she called them out on that because it is just the truth. It is just the truth. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to Boston, where Cubs champion was out there and talking about Halloween, which kind of got me thinking, what am I going to wear for Halloween?
She says special guest LRH's ghost, and then she says which would also be an excellent Halloween costume.
Maybe David Miscavige.
I'll come out here. I'll dress up here.
I thought that was funny because, Halloween is coming up. It is a bit of a ways off, I guess, right? But it's never too soon to start looking for those costumes for Halloween. And if anybody's going to be David Miscavige, I think that's hilarious. Or maybe a body Thetan, or maybe even Xenu. There's just so many ways, so many different things to do. GS61, I wonder how bad the inside is. Right. Yes. That's probably why they don't want live streamers and protesters in the orgs, because they'll see how inside they might be falling apart as well. Because if that's happening on the outside, it might just be happening on the inside, and they don't want people to see. That's really why they don't let them in. That's really probably why they don't want videotaping in the inside of Scientology organizations, is the disrepair, or things we're seeing like ideal Scientology organizations with no lights on while they are open, because the electric bills for these buildings are ridiculous. They really are. And they can't keep up. Because it's all a lie. It's putting lipstick on a pig. It's saying, look, we have these big, beautiful buildings because we're so successful. And all these people are going to be coming in because if you build it, they will come. No. You built it. Nobody came. That's what happened. That's what happened, Scientology. But you're going to keep trying, I guess. They're going to keep building these buildings, and everyone's going to sit there in the empty buildings, wondering where the public is. Scientologists just look at each other, just twiddling their thumbs, playing with their cans on their e-meters, and nothing happening. That is pretty much what is happening across the globe at these ideal organizations. Let's go to Big Blue now. Let's go to L. Ron Hubbard Way. Let's go check in with Kelly, who is there, giving us a view of them setting up for an event. And let's take a look.
The irony. That's a thumbnail.
You know, just busy there, getting stuff set up. They've got like, you know, I don't even know what they're setting up for. Where are we in now? We're almost to September. Huh. What is in August? Sea Org Day, but that's not a public event. I don't know. Does anyone know what they were actually setting up for? Tell me in the live chat. And if you're on the replay, thank you for being here. Jump in those comments. What were they actually setting up for?
Yes, it says freedom, Kimberly.
So this is my favorite part, because in the left-hand side of the screen here, watch this Scientologist. She's trying to figure out how to get in the building. Can I go here to get in the building? No, I guess I can't go here. I came all this way trying to go to my church, trying to do my thing. I can't even get in the building. Between them shutting down streets, keeping things shut here so they can set up whatever they're setting up for. I don't know. She looked peeved. I'm just saying, like, I think that Scientologists are getting a little fatigued of being like locked out of the building. How many times do you go and you show up at your church and the door's locked and you're locked out, or you have to use a back door, or you got to go in the alleyway? Like, what in the world? What in the world? What are you running there? What? How do Scientologists not see that as being weird? Well, they do actually, except they think it's because Scientology is trying to keep them safe, because people live streaming Scientology are so horrible in their eyes. And that's the narrative that they actually try to say. Now, since Scientology, good point, Scientology is its own worst enemy. Absolutely. Members and auditors are trapped victims. Yep. The mentality, the mental mind control necessary to stay in Scientology is very self-inflicted. You put on your own blinders. And if somebody else doesn't put on their blinders, you put them on for them. Because what will happen? If you don't report that person for not putting on the blinders, if you don't report that person who dared to look on the internet or read something that wasn't all complimentary about Scientology, if that person dared to speak to somebody who left Scientology, oh my gosh, how scandalous. Well, then you get in trouble. You will have to experience the consequence of that person's crime. So whatever the consequence is for looking on the internet or anything like that, if you know about it and you don't report it as a Scientologist, you now will be held responsible for that. Yep. Me and Taz, great point. Maybe Scientology should give everyone a fob. Yeah, give them a fob where they can just go in like that. That, you know what, that's a great idea. It's not like there's a ton of people. They just, all 15 public that they have there on L1 Hubbard Way could have a fob and get in and out of the Advanced Org of Los Angeles. You know what? Why didn't they think of that, me and Taz? That's a great idea. Oh, I'm telling you. Matt White says, at the latest Ideal Org event, chairman of the board was aghast when they wheeled out an inflatable blank. All right, let's hear it in the live chat. At the latest Ideal Org event, COB was aghast when they wheeled out an inflatable blank. And remember, misspell the spicy words here in the chat if there are any, but I will go back and catch up and see your responses to that. But that is hilarious. Miyamo, a fob is like a thing that'll unlock a door, like kind of like for your car, but then it can just be for a door. Okay, now let's go take a look at what Confident Chris was looking at over at the Blue Buildings. Confident Chris did a little tour of cult signs, because with so many people live streaming Scientology and protesting Scientology, it has had a dramatic effect on their ability to go out and recruit. They can't just walk outside the front of their building and go, hey, would you like to come in for a free personality test? No, because there's people out there live streaming and being like, hey, kids cannot consent. All of the things, asking all of the questions. How much debt are you in? Freeloader debts are not enforceable. Your doubts are valid, whatever it is. So they can't go right out there. So they have to use signs. They have to go to other venues, which still they're found. And remember, on SPTV.SPACE, there is a resource you can go to report if you see Scientology out recruiting or having a booth somewhere. And then maybe in that area, somebody might see it who is live streaming or protesting Scientology and can go over there and let them know what's what. Let them know what's what. I'm laughing at some of your responses. Okay, so Confident Chris, let's take a look.
You get the Dianetics? That's how you know they were out recruiting, man. Piss me off.
Yep, they're still trying. I feel like I've not seen that sign on L. Ron Hubbard Way in a while.
Oh. And the curious one over there.
That's right. Scientology, their curious sign, coming for a free film, except no one can get in the building, which is what's so hilarious. You know, when they block it off the way that they do. Come in and see a film if you can find your way in. It's like the opposite of an escape room for Scientologists. You're actually having to get in the building. But trust me when I tell you, there are more people trying to get out of Scientology than people trying to get in to Scientology. There are more people trying to leave Scientology staff and leave the Sea organization than are wanting to join either one of those. This is a fact. It is. There are more people, there are more ex-Scientologists than Scientologists. Yep. Straight facts here today, people. Straight facts. All right, let's see. Let's now, we have another treat. We have another clip from Phil Jones. You guys remember he and his wife, Willie, put up these giant billboards in Hollywood saying, call me or call your family. And it was directed at, obviously, their kids to get their kids to call them who were in the Sea organization practicing Scientology's harmful practice of disconnection. But you might have wondered, like, did anybody else call? Did they hear from anybody else who left Scientology as a result of the billboard? And Phil actually addresses that. Take a look.
I did get a call during the time we were doing the billboards from a young woman who was on staff and saw the billboards and decided that instead of Scientology disconnection, she wanted to be back in touch with her family. So she left Scientology and got back with her family. She called to thank me. I heard about a couple of other people that got out because of that, but really the only actual direct confirmation I had was just the one person. It is difficult to get people out of Scientology because the mental conditioning that they're under, you've seen it in some of the videos that these live streamers do. If they're trying to speak to a Scientologist, the Scientologist will walk away, run in the building, walk in the building, lock the doors, put the blinds down. I did get a call during the time we were doing the.
Yeah, he's just so spot on about that. But that was interesting. I had heard him mention that another time too, but wanted to go ahead and share that with you guys. Okay. Oh, somebody had made a funny, hold on a second. Casey Cat, thank you for that super sticker. You absolutely had an interesting encounter with Not Jerry, such flowery language too. That's right. Casey Cat was right there when I was in Kansas City, Missouri, outside the door when Not Jerry walked by, opened the door, and then, you know, screamed his profanity at me. I felt a little bad because my reaction was I kind of laughed because it just is so ridiculous. Like, that's not a proper response to what I said. Flunk. Let's do that again. Okay. In the meantime, we will get back to Not Jerry another time. In the meantime, have you guys been hearing that Tom Cruise has no friends? I'm sure this is keeping you up at night. Like, what do you mean, Natalie? What do you mean Tom Cruise has no friends? He knows so many people. Well, for some reason, this is an angle being picked up by a couple of publications. Here's why Tom Cruise has no friends despite huge stardom. Tom Cruise's restless routine made his life friendless. So it says that Tom Cruise's business team reveals that he has few genuine friends and is on the verge of burnout due to his demanding 16-hour workdays, despite his friendly public persona. Okay, first off, right there, the first line, it just pisses me off. It chaps my ass. And we're going to talk about why. I was like, what are you saying here? So Tom Cruise, poor Tom Cruise, right? We should feel sorry for him because he's on the verge of burnout due to his demanding 16-hour workdays, despite his friendly public persona. Oh, are you working 16-hour days, Tom Cruise? Are you? Oh, okay. You are. Okay, so are you getting paid for that? Do you get money or some kind of exchange that makes it worth it to work those amount of hours? And we're not buying that you're working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, some of your work may look like fun to the rest of us. And that is the case. That probably is the case. Going out and doing events, stuff like that. That's, that's work. You got to do it. But this narrative that, he's on the verge of a burnout and that Tom Cruise's business team revealed this. Okay, this is where I go. I don't think so, because in Scientology, there is a rule. It's like you don't repeat things that make somebody look bad who's a Scientologist or Scientology themselves. Scientology, you're not going to see them come out and go, okay, people are saying we're a human trafficking cult. People are saying that we commit financial fraud against our own members. Here's the truth. They're not going to say that. They're just going to, they're going to try and detract and how, human rights, we're doing these things. We're trying to get people off drugs and so on and so on. It doesn't, just something about it is just not making sense here. But you know what? An insider who's recently worked with Cruise noted to In Touch Weekly, let's be real here, Tom lives for the business of being a global movie star, and it's not exactly work for him because he goes at it like a 24/7 lifestyle choice. The Mission Impossible star has been working nonstop in Hollywood since the 1980s, rising to fame with the iconic roles and becoming a household name by 96. He made 7 Mission Impossible movies. The source continued. He literally, can you imagine? Like, I can only imagine, like, was this on the phone? Was this in an email? But let's see. I feel like it went like this. He literally has no friends who can keep pace with him. And that's all been exacerbated this summer as he finally puts Mission Impossible 8 to bed and can move on to other projects. He literally has no friends because nobody can keep up with him. So that's what we're saying. That's the reason why Tom Cruise doesn't have friends, because they can't keep up with him. Is that Tom Cruise? Are your people telling you that? Oh, babe. You only don't have friends because people can't keep up with you. You're just such a powerful being. You're moving at a whole new level with your tone 40 and your TRs in and your body Satan's being all gone. You're next level, Tom. People can't keep up with you. That's why you don't have friends. It has nothing to do with your personality, the demands you put on people that you work with in a very, very demeaning way. We've heard story after story from people, other Hollywood A-listers, even who have worked with him. Maybe that plays into it. Maybe because your best friend, David Miscavige, is the head of a human trafficking cult. Maybe that's part of it too. I don't know. Call me crazy. I just feel like it's not because you work hard. I don't think that's why you don't have friends. But if that's the angle your people are taking, okay. Says he only socializes with the moguls and other A-listers to further his movie ambitions. And it's pretty clear when you spend any stretch of time with him that he's a lonely guy and would rather be off shooting a mega stunt than pretending he likes his downtime. Okay, well, that's not the same thing too. It's like you can really enjoy what you're doing. Like I love exposing Scientology and talking about it. As someone who spent 35 years in Scientology with 3 generations of her family, we didn't have the opportunity to really discuss Scientology because first rule in Scientology is what? Don't talk about Scientology unless it is in the most just, brilliant, beaming success story kind of way. So I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying this. Now, I could just be being overly critical. And of course, he socializes with moguls and other A-lister. I mean, even that too is kind of a Scientology viewpoint. The Top Gun Maverick star impressive work ethic has led to a prolific career with over 50 films. I mean, nobody's arguing that Tom Cruise is a big star, that Tom Cruise probably works hard, right? He makes all these movies, but I think no one's going to buy that the reason he doesn't have friends is because no one can keep up with him. Well, what about his best friend, David Miscavige? Or twist, is this their way of saying, oh, he doesn't have friends because they don't want to say he's not best friends with David Miscavige. They're just saying, you know what? Let's just come out, Tom. We're not going to address this, this line, this enemy line that your best friend is the head of a human trafficking cult. No, we're just going to tell everyone you don't have any friends. You have no friends, Tom. There, that'll do it. That makes sense. Let's go with that narrative. Somebody, get on the hotline, send out the press release, however you do it. It's so dumb. It's just so dumb. Flea Dog, yes, Scientology, just like Fight Club. Yep. In that way, in that first rule, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Yep, Desert Dog, I'm with you. Rich people problems are so heartbreaking. I mean, it's like saying, oh, I work so hard and so intently that people can't keep up. That's why I don't have friends. That's like saying people, girls in school tease you because they like you. Boys in school tease you because they like you. I don't know. Maybe that's the case sometimes, but I kind of don't. I didn't buy that either back then. And I'm not buying this. I am not buying this. Daniel Muster's Homeless Songs. Tom has no friends because he has no personality. He only knows how to pretend. That is very true. And he also has that massive Scientology viewpoint that you're so much senior and above people who've never been exposed to Scientology. I'm telling you. That's right, Marissa. Can't he buy friends? Yeah. Well, no, he can't buy friends because they just can't keep up with him. They can't keep up. Okay, moving on from my Tom Cruise rant, let's talk about something that I discovered that I did not know. That had I known this as a teen in the 80s, I might have been heartbroken. But John Stamos almost became a Scientologist. He had a fling with it. It sounds like he had a fling with Scientology. But John Stamos today is marking himself safe from Scientology. This is an article I came across, how John Stamos almost ended up joining Scientology in the 80s. Okay, and how many of you, give me a 1 in the chat if you were in love with John Stamos in the 80s. Give me a 2 if you were not. In fact, if you weren't in love with John Stamos in the 80s, tell me who you were in love with, because I was absolutely in love with John Stamos in the 80s. I can remember being 13 or so and just wanting to kiss him so badly. Back in the day, I mean, it was just a thing for us. It was like, it was even like before his Full House days, I do believe. More in the 90s for you? Okay. Yeah. Never heard of John Stamos, Mena? May the force be with you. It's like 2. Yeah, no, I'm out on John Stamos. Kestrel though, Full House rebel. Yep, that's right. Okay. Yeah, Rika. Oh, and by the way, happy birthday, Rika. I do believe it's Rika's birthday today. Happy birthday. Not Uncle Jesse. I'm telling you. 21 Jump Street. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So let's see, blah, 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 blah. The now 61-year-old actor has detailed his experience with Scientology in the 80s and how he almost became a part of its in his explosive memoir, If You Would Have Told Me. Stamos revealed in his book that it all started when his former acting teacher managed to slip him some books on Scientology. And that's a picture of him from back then. So you can see how A lot of us were crushing. A lot of us were crushing. Okay, so he says, I'm walking to my car and Mia runs out and hands me my workbooks. Stamos wrote in his book, "Hey, you forgot these." She adds an extra book, the size of a brick, to my stack. "Start with this one," she says, smiling. "I think it will open your eyes to some amazing things." Mia encouraged Stamos to meet her at an address that Stamos later discovered was Scientology's Celebrity Center in Hollywood, California. Note this, people. This is a common tactic. People will try to recruit other actors or wannabe actors into Scientology through the Celebrity Center by getting them to come meet these directors. Oh, come learn about acting. Here's the deal. They don't tell them it's at Scientology. They just go, here's the address. I'll meet you there. What? Like, why don't you just say, oh, it's at the Celebrity Center at the Church of Scientology? Like you, the whole bait and switch thing, the whole thing. Oh, Rika, it wasn't your birthday. It was Fluffer Squirrels yesterday. Today is George's birthday. Okay, George, surrounded by Scientology, George. I thought his birthday was in September, so it must be a different George. But Fluffer Squirrel, happy birthday to you. And thank you so much for everything that you do. Oh, that's funny. Okay, John Stamos. So let's see here. Let's see. There's a lot about controlling your reactionary mind, controlling energy, controlling space and time. Stamos barely lasted there for more than a few minutes. So sounds like he went and he was like, no, I'm out. The Full House actor was immediately put off by the Celebrity Center during his visit. He described the location as a mix of grand, ornate, and creepy as F, a cross between Chateau Marmont, Disney's Haunted Mansion, and a mental hospital. But the actor still took a brief trip inside the building to participate in a famous Scientology auditing session. All I can think about is the Wayback Machine from the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, deployed by the genius beagle, Mr. Peabody, and his adopted human boy Sherman to time travel through different dimensions, Stamos recalled. So, point being, he went in, he got out. He did get on the cans. I'm handed two round things that look like cans. I put one to my ear and the other to my mouth and mimicked talking into an old-timey telephone. Hello there, he further quipped. But that's not all. It appears as though Stamos' reaction to the environment at the Celebrity Center irritated Mia. Now, Mia's the girl who was in his acting class. And there was a weird little man who presided over the session and even pinched Stamos on the hand. He begins to question me about committing crimes and ask if I have negative thoughts about Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard, and probes into some strange sex inquiries, Stamos wrote in his memoir. The Wayback Machine needle jumps in the corner and Mia looks disappointed. I'm not Scientology material, darn it. Stamos included a few other things about his life aside from this little encounter with the Church of Scientology and how he steered away from them. Very interesting. I'm glad that he shared that. And I just love the fact that I put a link down below to the article Rise Higher. So it should be in the description of the video there. So what a bizarre way to try and get somebody into Scientology. Now, I know what he's talking about. In Scientology, there's this thing called a pinch test where you get to hold the cans. You get put on the e-meter, you hold the cans, and then the auditor, the person operating the e-meter, the Scientologist, pinches you, and then you watch the reaction of the needle. Then the person says, recall the pinch. And then the idea is you get a similar, if not exact, reaction of the meter to show that recalling it brings up like that mental energy, same as happened when you were actually pinched. So it's trying to say, see, it works, because when you think of it, blah, this happens. Didn't work with him. It didn't work. It didn't. I'm so glad too. I would have been absolutely devastated. I'd have been like, oh my gosh, I got to go to Celebrity Center and save John Stamos from Scientology. Although, who am I kidding? I was in Scientology. I wouldn't have known. I did not know then. I was like 13, 14 years old. And though I was into my Scientology indoctrination, I hadn't yet learned the worst of it. Okay, so let's take a look now. Let's look at a clip from John Oliver. I love it when John Oliver brings up David Miscavige. I don't even care in what context it is. It's usually around Shelley, and that is what it was about. But I just love that he continues to do it. I'm so here for this. Check it out.
A cancer patient lost access to chemotherapy treatment after being put in hospice without his knowledge. And others were denied kidney dialysis, mammograms, and coverage for life-saving medications. And those just aren't things you should be able to lose without realizing. Chemotherapy isn't like a set of keys or the wife of the head of the Church of Scientology. Where's Shelley, David? Where's Shelley? It's been 17 years. I'm starting to think something bad's happened. A cancer patient.
I just love that. I just love that he does that. I just do. I mean, Shelley Miscavige is, doing the Lord's work, the Scientology version of it, doing the L. Ron Hubbard work. She's out there, we think, at that one base with the vaults, the big vaults that are dug into a mountain or underground. They build these vaults and they put L. Ron Hubbard's materials onto these metal discs, so they last for thousands of years, and they put them in the vault, and then they build a 3-bedroom 2-bath house on the property so that when L. Ron Hubbard returns to any of these locations after the apocalypse, then he rebuilds Scientology, or anybody can rebuild Scientology. That's a question I have. What if there's the apocalypse, right? Like, let's say there's the zombie apocalypse, and some Scientologists are like, oh, we must resurrect L. Ron Hubbard's technology and Scientology. Let's make our way to the vault. We know that there's 4, but we don't know where they are because Scientology keeps them confidential. Now, if you use Google, you can find them, Google Maps. And of course, people in the ex-Scientology community know where they are. It's been talked about. But if you don't have access to the internet, right, to find that out because it's the zombie apocalypse, how are you going to find the vaults? And here's the other thing. How are you going to open them? Because I remember talking to somebody about this who worked on those vaults, on building them, and worked in that area, and they kept locked. They're locked. I don't know. It's one of many things that make absolutely no sense in Scientology. So I don't know what else to say about that. It's just ridiculous here. Let's see here. Let's see. Apostate Alex is saying the thing is there are no other Scientology schools nearby. Greenfields is the only one. So that's one of the stories we covered early on in the video. That is interesting because in what schools would be sponsoring the students to go to that Scientology school? Good info. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for sharing this, Natalie. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for covering it. Let's see. Abraham says, having those teeth should be a suppressive act, LRH. So that's in regard to L. Ron Hubbard's teeth. Bridget, is this why we see Scientologists staying late after closing hours on Wednesdays to complete coursework and meet the Thursday deadline? Yes! Yes, absolutely. It's all about Thursday by 2. And if you're ever out live streaming or protesting Scientology on a Wednesday or Thursday, anytime for that matter, you could bring it up. But it'd be extra funny on a Wednesday or Thursday morning to say, how are your stats? Do you have your stats up? Thursday at 2. I'm reporting for duty before Thursday at 2. Count me as here. James, do Scientologists carry pew-pews? I mean, not as a matter of, oh, you're a Scientologist, therefore this is what we do. I actually never, I'm not saying that they don't. I think like any place in the country, it depends on where you live. I will say this. I don't think I knew of a Scientologist that concealed and carry, but I know many Scientologists who do possess them in their homes. But as far as carrying, it wasn't something that I was aware of. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, or some don't. Let's see. Carol, thank you so much. I'll keep an eye out for that. I'll head to the P.O. box tomorrow. Let's see. James with the joke of the day. What's the most common owl in the UK? A tea owl? A tea owl. Some of them are funnier than others, James, but I appreciate that you keep doing that and keep doing it. It makes me laugh. Let's see. Oh, Otis Mom says, for my rep letter, so these are the letters to people's representatives, they're elected officials. How can I find the actual LRH policy for evidence, like a small child shouldn't cringe at an adult kiss gag? We'd rather have you dead than incapable, etc. Well, it would be in the Dianetics book. I believe it's in the Dianetics book. And if somebody knows exactly where, can you put it up in the chat or put it up in the comments if you are on the replay? And by the way, everybody here, go over and show that like button some aloha right now. Just go show it some aloha and check your subscribe too. So keeping Scientology working is where we'd rather have you dead than incapable comes from. And the one about cringing to an adult kiss, I do believe is in the book Dianetics. You should be able to find it there. But maybe somebody, oh, tea towel. Nancy's explaining the joke to me now. Okay. That makes a bit more sense. So yeah, those are the two places. And if somebody knows exactly where to, throw it up in the chat, throw it up in the comments if you're catching this on the replay. Ooh, Auditing Scientology says page 405 of the 2007 edition of Dianetics. That's where you're going to find the quote about, not being grossed out by a child being passionately kissed by an adult. That's where you will find that. Let's see. Don't have to grab any questions, but thank you for doing the letter, Otis Mom. And everybody go to SPTV.SPACE and go ahead and check out the resources page and where you can locate your elected official. There's an example letter that you can make your own or even use the example letter if that's what you need to do. And please include the email, read the direction because it tells you who to blind copy or who to forward your email to so that these things can be being tracked. So we can kind of keep an eye on it as we go through the year. And it's something that everybody in the United States can do. Just find out who your official is. And that's really who you want to go to is because sometimes they have questions about where are you a constituent, what district are you in, etc. But go check it out, SPTV.SPACE under resources. Let's see. Oh, Professor Kakan, Janice Gilman Grady talks about Hubbard's gun collection in Dunedin, Florida, getting lost. Oh, I can only imagine. Susie says, I just heard there's a Scientology booth at the Tampa Comic-Con this weekend. Ooh, who's going to Tampa Comic-Con? And remember, if you see something, say something, be it a video, an article, Scientology cult related, Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com. Go ahead and email that to me. Yeah, people should check that out. Absolutely. Thank you, Yadira, for the reminder to hit that like. It takes two to make all things go right. That's right. If you're on your phone, just double tap your screen and that will do it as well. Oh, I'm glad that some people might be going over there and checking it out. I want to hear about it. So let us know. All right, that is what I have for you right now on the recap. I have a very exciting interview that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I will put up a notification for that later. You're not going to want to miss it. It's probably going to be 4 or 5 o'clock Central, but catch it on the replay if you can't catch it live. Blew my mind when I found out what I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Blew my mind. I don't know why I'm so surprised, though, all the time. You'd think after 35 years in Scientology and 14 years out learning about and exposing Scientology that I wouldn't be surprised, but I am. And I'm not. I think you guys are going to find it very interesting. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, is that all I have? I don't know why. I feel a little discombobulated because it's like, how long has it been since I've been here? It's only been a couple of days. All right. So I guess that's what we got. In the meantime, everybody get out there and have an amazing cult-free day.